Thanks for riding with us this morning. We appreciate your attendance. You know, we try to utilize. Let me rephrase that. There is no we. America's voice now is me, right? I try to utilize my own limited knowledge about certain, aspects of our society or our culture or our, finance and law and things like that to try to impart knowledge to those people who are listening and paying attention and or willing to, gather information, right? I live by the mantra that says, gather enough information to make informed decisions. And the reason for that is because you can't really truly make decisions that are appropriate without information. You can only make decisions when you have gathered enough facts to make an informed decision. Anything less than that means that you are accepting someone else's decision or opinion and transforming it into your own. But that doesn't necessarily, that doesn't give you anything to stand on. It's not foundational. And what I want people and listeners to understand is that, you have an obligation to be a critical thinker on your own and to be cognizant of all of the information that's out there. You should, in order to be a true critical thinker, you have to read and educate yourself and learn both sides of the arguments. It's very important that you are familiar with not only what you believe, but why you believe it. And the only way that you're ever going to really get there is by making sure that you have educated yourself about the other side of the issue, that whatever that topic or issue may be, whether it's money or whether it's legal or whether it's societal or whether it's psychology. It doesn't even make any difference. I don't care what this is. And by the way, this is something you can apply in every aspect of your life. Look at both sides of the issue and study both sides of the issue. Listen to what people whose views and viewpoints differ from you. Listen to what makes up their viewpoint and understand it thoroughly, because you can't make an informed decision on what your own opinion is until you know all the facts. And the facts include those areas that you don't agree with. The problem that most people have in the United States right now is that, and it's not just in the United States, by the way, it's global. Most people are just more than willing to settle down, hear an opinion from someone else, and then parrot that as their own. And with all due respect, nothing could be further from reality. Nothing could be further from intellectual honesty. If you're going to have an opinion, know why you have it and know where you stand on it. Because otherwise, when someone challenges you, you don't have the wherewithal, the knowledge, the skill set, and the information to be able to back up your own beliefs and assertions. And if you can't back up your beliefs, they're not beliefs. I use this analogy because it makes sense to me, and maybe it doesn't to you, but to me it does. Have a discussion with someone who descends immediately to, and you'll see this in the liberal and the progressive mentality all the time. The minute logic and reason are brought into the conversation and they hit a dead end in their argument or their positioning, what ends up happening is they immediately default to the emotional. And you'll see this over and over and over and over and over. They'll try to relate it to morality. They'll try to relate it to, well, we have an obligation to help the poor. They'll try to relate it to things that are subjective, not objective. Objective means that no matter what way you walk around that item, that issue, the answer is clear and plain for everyone to see. Subjective means you can describe it in one way and someone else can describe it in another way. In an objective, we all look at the marble and we say, it's round. In smoke, we look at it and some people see, billows. Some people see pillows. Some people see a dragon floating in it. Some people see, a Volkswagen. It's subjective. Objectivity, in order to look at things objectively, you look at them on their face and you say, I'm going to put my biases aside. I'm going to put my predetermined ideas about this issue or topic or person or whatever aside, and I'm going to look at it from the perspective that I really want to look at it with new eyes, a new perspective that's fresh. Almost no one is objective. And I'll bet if you analyze your own knowledge and skill set, you will find you're not objective either. Your inherent biases will automatically come forth. One of the reasons why I started to talk about the Farm Bill, food stamps, and fraud, and I don't know why I got off on this topic, but maybe I'll have to cover that another time because this is imperative that we grasp this idea. One of the problems with approaching everything from your own bias is that you are never really willing to see the other side. And no matter how strenuous an argument someone makes against your positioning, you're more interested in thinking how you're going to respond to that than you are in actually listening to it and determining whether or not there's any real factual value to that. And that's why I tell you that you should be listening not only to those people who you don't agree with, but also those people that you do agree with. And then, instead of just saying, okay, so now I have enough information to make an informed decision, stop right there and apply some serious critical thinking skills to your overall evaluation. Don't just take one argument from one person and one argument from another person and try to make and form an opinion out of that. It's a losing game. You need multiple sources of information. Let me analogize it this way. A general on the battlefield, he's getting information from different teams and different groups that are out in the field. If he's only getting information from one group, and they say, we're overwhelmed at this spot. The enemy is coming in and they're pouring over the top of the hill. He thinks he's completely surrounded. If that's the only source of information he has. If, on the other hand, he is standing in the middle and the group is around them and he's hearing from 3 or 4 other listening points, and they say, yeah, quiet as a church mouse over here on my side, he knows he's not surrounded anymore. Your job is to make sure that as the general who's about to make a decision about how to deploy your forces, that you are gathering information from all the listening points around you. And you're not making a decision based on faulty information that may or may not accurately represent the reality. You can't just listen to the one listening post who says, man, they're pouring over the top here and we're outnumbered 10-1. Because then you believe that you're completely surrounded. And you make the mistake of deploying your forces equally around your perimeter. Guess what? You have now employed forces in 3/4 of the circle that aren't even under attack. And what you really needed to do was deploy a skeleton force around those 3 sides and put the vast majority of your force against where the onslaught was coming. You made a critical error in judgment. In the military, people die when you do that. In politics, people die and they pay. In every aspect of your life, whether that is your own personal finances or whether that is your own personal belief systems, whether that's your religious belief systems. It doesn't matter. These rules apply across the board, irrespective, just like gravity applies. Gravity applies whether you are in water or whether you are on land or whether you are at 2,000 feet or whether you are in a forest or a desert. It makes no difference. Gravity applies. Period. End of discussion. And these rules about critical thinking and these rules about objectivity and learning and formulating opinions based on gathered information apply in every aspect. And it doesn't make any difference what that topic or news or story or belief system is. What's important for you to think about as you challenge yourself and your opinions, because your job should be to evaluate and determine whether or not your opinions have validity as well as forming new ones. Challenge yourself to determine, are my old ones and my biases accurate? Are they legitimate? Because if they're not, then you're operating on a false premise. You're the general who has deployed his forces equally and uniformly around the entire circle when only 1/4 of the circle is under attack. You've squandered 3/4 of your deployment. It's so important that we realistically evaluate and question and challenge ourselves. Not that we are even all that influential in terms of who we can. I mean, if you're a regular Joe or a regular Jane, and you say, well, I don't have any influence. I don't run for office. I don't sit on a board of a major corporation. I don't influence lots and lots of people or impact their decisions. But I beg to differ with you. You do. You just don't know that you do. One, you influence your family. You influence those who are in your circle of influence, those people that you interact with on a routine and daily basis. You can, if you're willing to, exercise your influence on those people who you haven't even attempted to because you're afraid to, or you're really not sure how to. And part of your weakness in wanting to move forward and influence others is your inability to feel confident about the knowledge base that you have. And the only way that you're going to get that and be intellectually honest about discussing a topic and forming an opinion, and then it's supporting that opinion in an argument to others when you're trying to influence them and their way of thinking, is to have both sides of the argument. My son is in speech and debate. He's in high school. One of the things that they make them do in speech and debate, and I completely agree with this, is that when they have a topic, they're given a topic. This is what the speech and debate's going to be about, whether it's a Lincoln-Douglas type debate or whatever. And he has to argue both sides of the issue. He's got to argue for the issue, and he's got to argue against the issue. And it's a great exercise for us to do, to become confident that we have formulated an opinion that's legitimate, because it forces us to argue the opposing viewpoint, the one we don't even agree with. Well, in order to do that, you've got to have some facts and figures to be able to back that up. Otherwise, you descend into what? The emotional. And that has no place in an argument of logic, reason, fact. So, try doing this as a little exercise for yourself. I would love for people to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to take an issue that I don't agree with. Let's say, pick it. I don't care what it is. Maybe it's Obamacare. Maybe it is central banking. Maybe it is something legal. Maybe it is the debt limit. And I'm going to argue and write down, or at least put and I don't care if you're embarrassed, do it into a tape recorder and then play it back just for you, right? Use your tracking device. I mean, your mobile phone. Your NSA tracking device? Yeah, that one. Use that NSA tracking device, and you can probably download a little application that allows you to make it a voice recorder. I know the NSA is recording it anyway, but they're not going to give it to you. So use it as a device and record both sides of the argument. Just sit down and for 5 minutes argue the one side and then argue the other side. And practice it. Why? Because when you practice it, you actually become good at it. You become familiarized with your own argument about why you believe the way you believe. And if there's one thing that human beings are very, very good at, it's when you verbally speak what you think. You challenge yourself to exercise your mental capacity to get the electrons flowing, if you will, in order to come out with ideas and concepts. Sitting in silence and just letting it mull around in your mind is different than actually verbalizing it. Using the auditory power of your voice, orally, A-U, right? Not orally, O-R. Orally arguing, or orally hearing an argument or expressing one enables you to formulate your ideas and concepts and then put them into articulation in language. And there is no other way to communicate unless you're a writer. If you're a writer and you can put your thoughts on paper, God bless you. Man, I struggle with that. But if you are not a writer, and in most cases you don't have the ability to argue, when I say argue, I never mean argue as in kind of argument. I mean argue like a courtroom. You see, every contact that you make, every person you come in contact with, every influence that you have should be a contact that is like an opportunity to influence those in your circle of influence. And the circle of influence isn't just your church and your school and your family and your work and the company that you work for, and maybe the company that you run. Your circle of influence is also the person that you never even met before, and you happen to be standing there at a parade, and you get an opportunity to open up the topic about faith and belief in our country. Maybe it's the lady at the checkout counter who's standing behind you with a cart of groceries, and you look at her and you say, boy, the dollar just doesn't go as far as it used to anymore, does it? And she says, no, it sure doesn't. Boy, I can't believe how much prices have gone up. And guess what? She just opened the door for you to influence her thinking. Maybe bring her over to your side. We need converts. We need people who believe that the Constitution has a rightful place in the nation, that it has been removed as the hinge, the linchpin, if you will, the pivot pin of our society. And we need people to believe that it needs to be replaced so that the teeter-totter has got a balance to it again. If you move the fulcrum from the middle and you put it over at one end, everything is lopsided. And that's what's happened. We've taken the Constitution, the fulcrum of our society, and we've removed it. And now this just spins endlessly. There's no balance to it anymore. Or we've moved it so far to one side that we can't get balance out of it. Your job as a leader, as a critical thinker, and whether you believe you're a leader or not, you are. Whether you're a leader of 1 or a leader of 9 million makes no difference. We have one responsibility going forward. You have only one responsibility in your life. And when I say this, I don't necessarily mean about, feeding your children or honoring your God. I'm talking about one responsibility to this country, this nation, this society, and your responsibility as a citizen is to give back to this republic and preserve for future generations what has been given to you. we must hand off the lit torch of freedom and liberty to those who will be and are our progeny. If we fail in that endeavor, if we abdicate that responsibility and we deny it or refuse to do it, and it doesn't matter what your reasoning is, we have failed. You can end up in heaven standing before God and saying, I was a righteous man all my life, and he may even agree with you. But you failed those who will come after you. It is our obligation, our sovereign duty, to hand off this torch of liberty and freedom, to build and solidify that pillar that holds the roof of liberty and freedom and self-respect and self-reliance. To hand that off. The benefits that you've been given by this republic that you so skillfully ignore. Your ability to critically conceive, conceptualize, and express to others. You're a preacher, whether you believe it or not. Every one of you is. Everything that you do, every touch you make, every contact you make, every individual that you touch is an opportunity to pay off the debt. You've won the genetic lottery. You live in the most magnificent country that ever was. The poorest of us, with big screen TVs and refrigeration and flush toilets and running water, we live like kings over 60% of the rest of the planet. If you take that for granted and you are willing to say, I don't really care whether it's there for the future or not, then, man, you are a selfish monster. Be cognizant and aware of your own bias, your own shortcomings, and your own preconceived ideas. Wherever you got them, many of us got it from our parents. Many of us got it from our influences in our communities. You know, we're conservative or we're liberal because this is what we grew up with or knew. You know, the same that a Christian kid grew up in a Christian home and that's what he believes, and the same that a Buddhist kid grew up in a Buddhist home and he's never been exposed to Christianity. He doesn't know anything about it. The same as an atheist kid grew up in an atheist home. His parents never talked about God. He doesn't even know that God exists. He doesn't really know the concept of it. We believe what we've been exposed to. So open your horizons, open your eyes, and expose yourself so that you are a fresh and open book. You're a blank page. Gather information from multiple sources that agree and disagree with your preconceived ideas, and then form opinions out of those new building blocks. Form opinions that are unique and individual and solid as a rock all the way through. If you can scrape the paint off and there's nothing but a hollow ball of glass underneath, then you can't possibly be able to influence others properly because you have no foundation and you can't even support your own beliefs. But when you scrape off the paint and that ball is as solid as a shot put, now Now you have power. Now you have influence. Now you have strength. And it makes all the difference. We need you. We need leaders. Leaders of one and leaders of 1 million. And we need you now. God bless you. Please find our web information by going to americasvoicenow.org. Send me an email if this is something, if this particular episode was right or wrong, good or bad for you. Send me an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. I'd like to hear from you, because if this impacted you, positively or negatively, how can I do a better job of my influence? How can I do a better job educating those in my circle of influence? That includes you. If I've made it too complicated, if I've made it too simplified, if I'm way off base, tell me. If I'm right, tell me that. But let's work together at solving these problems, first within ourselves, and then external to us. You can only be at your highest and best use to your country, to your family, to your God, when you are knowledgeable. God bless. Have yourself a great day. You can find us at americasvoicenow.org. Email me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. You can also find us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And you can also find this and every other program that we do on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel with 400 plus videos on there. And you can find that by going to youtube.com/America's Voice Now. Appreciate you coming with us today. Thanks for riding along. Let's make sure that we're making a difference every day, not only in our own lives, but everywhere that, and everyone and every who that we touch. Everybody matters, and every touch matters. Have a great day.